in amongst the plethora of other U-turns that Lord Starmer, or Sir Nasal, as I like to refer to him as, has been undertaking over the last few days, and presumably will continue. What we have? We've had the winter fuel allowance fiasco. He's now backing down on benefit cut. Well, they're not benefit cuts. They're actually a slowing down of the rate of benefit growth. But anyway, the other one that is apparently in the works is a reconsideration of the whole non-dom thing. So I was speaking to an ex-UK politician who seemed to have some inside knowledge of discussions that Labour were having with people in the city about how they were going to change that. And I thought it would just be interesting to cover off on the issue around the change from domicile to residence, but not in the context that people keep talking about, which is the impact on income tax, and tax on your worldwide income, but on inheritance tax specifically. Can you just run through how they've changed inheritance tax when it comes to the difference between domicile and the new scheme?
So under the old scheme, which was based upon your domicile and where you considered your true home to be, you could be UK tax resident for up to 15 out of 20 tax years before the year being considered, before you'd be subject to inheritance tax on your worldwide.
On the basis of then you become deemed domiciled in the old scheme.
But even then, there were various, systems reliefs, like offshore trusts, for example. If they were set up when you were non-domiciled, they would still remain outside of the UK, even if you had become considered to be deemed domicile in the UK at the point of death. And so it was really quite a tax advantageous, beneficial scheme for the ultra high net worths. And the changes to the system back in October.
That's when they were announced. Well, they'd already been out and they'd made a few tweaks to what the Tories were going to do, but then they obviously announced more of the detail, and then they came into effect as at the 6th of April this year.
Yes. So the October changes changed inheritance tax from being a domicile-based system to being a residence-based system. So if you are considered to be a long-term resident of the UK, which means that for 10 out of 20 years prior to the year being considered, we're talking about tax years here, then you would be subject to inheritance tax on your worldwide assets at the point of death. If you're a long-term non-resident, which means you've been non-resident for 10 out of the 20 tax years before, say the relevant event, but generally before death, then it would you'd only be subject to inheritance tax on your UK-based assets.
And this is particularly problematic because, yes, there are countries that don't charge income tax on earnings, but generally they are so-called tax havens. Some countries in the Middle East, but your general run-of-the-mill country, charges inheritance tax. Charges income tax. The thing that's difficult with inheritance tax is a lot of countries don't have it, and so it does make the UK quite anomalous.
Yes.
And certainly, I think he's called Najef Sawiris, who is co-owner of Aston Villa Football Club, cited the inheritance tax thing, particularly on his relocation to Italy. I know that Lakshmi Mittal also made the same comments, because if you're a big shareholder of like Mittal, you're talking billions and billions of pounds worth of value that the UK is suddenly going, oh yeah, we're going to tax that at 40%. And what's absurd is that it's like you'd be much better off having a system whereby he gets taxed on his dividends. And it comes back to that whole thing of like your average non-dom taxpayer pays 170,000 quid of tax. Your average taxpayer pays 7,000 quid in tax. What possible reason is there to drive out the people who pay 170 grand? But yeah, the inheritance tax one is a bit of a nuanced one. I don't think it's clear whether or not they're going to change that particular part of it, but certainly they're going to have to come up with some sort of scheme that's a bit more attractive. Reform have recently announced their Britannia card, which is all a bit silly in the context of the idea of collecting fees for a Britannia card and distributing it to the lowest paid. I mean, how on earth are they going to do that? I mean, the UK government can't organise anything. They're not going to be able to organise that. But yeah, the inheritance tax point, it'll be interesting to see how that develops.